Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Another beautiful episode of Canada's Drag Race, and I can't wait to talk about it. But, hello, bonjour, hi! Welcome to the Currently Unnamed Podcast, where we put the real and the tea in reality, and you can always come to us first to quench your thirst. I'm Logan Murphy, say something gay. Gay, I've got water down here, but I am also sipping on some hazelnut pumpkin cold brew today because it's very delicious, it's very wonderful, and I need the caffeine, so.
Work. And hello, everyone. I am your girl, Lana, your resident evil diva, and I'm here to give the tea, spill the tea, and drink the tea because you know I love me some tea. I am drinking on some water because hydration is important, and I am still not where I'm usually at, so therefore I don't have a cup mug, but I know who does. David. David has a cup mug and a cup shirt, period. Woo, 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 woo. And you can get your cup mug and cup shirt and all of our other beautiful merch at LanaG'sCreations.etsy.com. That link will be in the description below. And we have a new and improved cup mug, so be on the lookout for that logo on each side instead of the front like I did the first time. So we fixed it, y'all. We fixed it. But LanaG'sCreations.etsy.com, we do ship internationally and domestically, so there are no excuses. I was about to say Canada, I'm looking at you, but your postal service is on strike right now. So guess what? There are some excuses for you. So until your postal workers get back together and you can order again and get your stuff shipped in time. Yeah. But if you order now, everybody else, you will get your stuff right after Christmas.
Right.
Well, I'm David Healy, and I don't have a cute intro, but I do have a cute fan and a cute shirt. I'm double jimboing it today.
Ooh.
Yep. Representing for my favorite Canada's Drag Race queen. Yes, and I'm not ashamed to say it. Jimbo is my favorite Canada's Drag Race queen.
Say what you want to say. Talk your talk.
Yeah.
Talk your talk.
I would be surprised if it was anyone else, David.
I mean, there's lots of other ones I really love,
Yes.
But
And
Jimbo's top.
I'm showing off my Le Grand Dame fan, as not always, but very frequently recently. And Lana has a great fan too. A very thirsty fan.
I'm just drinking a Monster right now because I am tired. And if you're watching the video version, you can probably tell.
All three of us are a little tired today, but nevertheless, we are persisting with another phenomenal episode of season 5 of Canada's Drag Race. And right off the bat, you may have seen a specific video uploaded to the channel yesterday, if you're watching this at the time this goes up, because we're doing exit interviews for this season of Canada's Drag Race. What? Super exciting. Once again, thank you to Crave and thank you to World of Wonder. Thank you to everyone involved for getting us those. So we will be talking to all of the queens, presumably, for this season of Canada's Drag Race. So we will be getting our exit interviews out on Fridays and our recaps up on Saturdays. So make sure to check those out when we do them. Ding. And it was at the 420 mark, which I think is very fun. But yeah, we're going to talk about this episode. Before we dive in, though, make sure to subscribe if you've not already, because we're here almost all the time giving you almost all things drag. And make sure to check out the description below where you can find all of our audio podcast links, our other YouTube channels, and our Patreon for exclusive content and early access, including early access to most of the Look Over Here episodes for the franchises that we are currently covering. So let's dive in. We come back in. No one went home. No one went home.
No one went home. In fact, there's one extra body
literally
in the workroom now.
I loved the gag that they all walk in, and I love even more that it was Sanjana that was like, bitch, the beaver's back.
Like, I wasn't sure if it was happening. Like, I don't remember if they showed it in the preview for the season.
I don't think so.
Mhm. So, and like we knew going into Canada versus the world that it was going to be a thing. So it was like, oh, maybe you're taking a break. I'm glad it's back because this is something like this is a twist that works. It's not too game breaking, and it lets Canada do their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think more franchises need to figure out like a thing that works for them. Like the phone for France, I hope that comes back. That could be a thing for France. So, yeah, I was happy to see the beaver.
Yeah, I was happy to see the beaver. I wasn't mad at it. I thought the beaver was. I think the beaver's a good twist. It's a good twist, and that's a good twist. You know, it's a good twist.
Oh, Hannah Chada, that's a good twist.
It's a good twist, but it works. And I do agree with you, David. If every franchise can find their own little thing that makes it uniquely theirs, but a good twist, that would be so wonderful to see. But I love that. I do like Francis' phone. I just want it to be more. I need more suspicious. You know, I need to be more like anticipating it. Like
I need to be more surprised by the
right. Yeah, that's what it is. But like, didn't Espana have one where they had the
little queen, yeah.
Right, the little queen and things like that. So
I love that twist too.
I do too. So I feel like more franchises are coming along with their own little thing that is just uniquely them, and that'll be perfect. I love that.
Yeah, I definitely do too. I like that each franchise is kind of like it's the same format, but we're getting little different twists here and there. And I like that the international seasons are not afraid to do what US does and kind of try things out. We tried out the phone. We tried out the beaver. The beaver worked. The phone, I like it on paper. It worked, but I agree. I want it to be a little bit more surprising. Nevertheless, I am happy that Ms. Beaver is back. No one went home. Everyone's
eyelashes and all. Eyelashes and all.
Lip reduction since
I know. I was going to say we got a lip reduction. She had her all-stars.
The filler has settled in.
Filler settled. And everything works.
Brooklyn's hasn't yet, but hopefully by the end of the season it does. Love you, Brooke. Love you, Brooke. But yeah, the girls are all excited that no one went home, and
yeah, they congratulate Virgo on her win, and she's very emotional. And she starts talking about how she doesn't make friends very easily, and she just really appreciates all the friendships she's making. And this really surprised me because I think Virgo is one of the queens that stands out the most for me for like natural charisma. Like even like things she's done in episode 1 had been living in my head rent free since then. Like when she walks into the workroom and she does a thing like this. Like I'm constantly thinking about that. Like that is burned into my brain and I'm obsessed with it.
And the tempo that she had in her, I don't remember the exact words, but the part in her horny. That's the only part I remember. But
like, I want to be her friend. So I'm surprised she doesn't have a million friends.
Absolutely. There's a lot of these girls. Like I'm still going around saying like, who the fuck is this gorgeous whore? Like Tiffany has imprinted that on me, and I will be saying that probably for the rest of time. But it's these little things like this season maybe more than any other Canada season, no shade to any other season, like the charisma across the board is strong with this whole cast.
Well, there is one queen that is, I'm just kidding.
It's the beaver. The beaver hasn't really shown off her charisma yet, and I'm really waiting for the beaver to really give us the charisma. We've got the uniqueness. She certainly has the nerve. We haven't seen the talent yet, so she's And I'm waiting for some charisma and some talent beaver. Anyway, we come into the workroom the next day. The girls are chatting. They're doing their thing. I am really appreciating that Minnie is just wearing as minimal clothing as humanly possible. On this season in the workroom and on the runway. We'll talk about it and look over here. But I'm just like, oh, Minnie's very nice to look at, and I'm glad.
I tried to fight it because it's such a low-hanging fruit to be like, oh, Minnie's hot. And I'm like, yeah, that's basic. But she's so hot. Like, I keep looking at her. I'm like, damn, you're so pretty.
Yeah. Literally.
Would.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. But yes, so was it Brooke that came in? Or was it Tracy that came in? I don't remember. It was Brooke. I'm gonna say it was Brooke. Brooke walked into
It was definitely Brooke.
I am getting it confused with next week. Where
No, it's definitely Brooke.
There's no drag right now.
I'm getting it confused with the episode I haven't seen from next week.
I know, literally. But Brooke walks into the workroom. We find out that this week's Maxi Challenge is creating PSAs for aliens to teach them about life on Earth. And I don't know who came up with this challenge, but I kind of love it. Like it's rooted in classic, improv and scripted comedy challenges that we've had on Drag Race before. But I love this concept just being a little bit different. Like, we're just taking a different perspective with things. And I appreciate Canada for it. So I thought this challenge was very fun, very exciting. And we find out that the bottom three from last week, being Tara, Tiffany, and Perla, get to choose their groups. And the gag of all gags that gagged me and gooped me was that Michaela Couture was picked last. Now, why was Michaela Couture picked last?
My only thing is maybe people want people that aren't as young, like just because with age comes experience and different things. Maybe they're like, oh, she is 21. Maybe have somebody who has lots of things that they've done and maybe is more accomplished. I don't know. I was trying to rack my brain. That's the best thing I could come up with, but I'm not even sure.
Yeah. Definitely. Did I forget things that happened in the workroom beforehand?
Yeah, there were a few things that happened before we got the challenge. So on the first day, we did find out they asked Virgo who she would have used the golden beaver on. And I was like, oh, is she going to say? And she had no problem. She's like, oh, yeah, I would have said Perla because I'm close with her. I'm like, oh, okay.
And I would have loved it. I would be like, thank you very much.
Right. So not only is she like very open about it, which I appreciate, but she made it pretty clear. I would have saved her because she's my friend. And I'm like, okay.
I mean, let's be honest. Most folks do that. And like, it's like I'm going to say the person who I'm the closest with, because I know if I'm in that situation and they have the power, they'll save me. I'm not going to save. Some people are here like, I'm going to play the game. I'm going to switch things up. I'm going to shift it around. Virgo was like, no, I'm going to stick to I'm going to stick to the rivers and the lakes that I'm used to. The people that I know, I'm going to have their back so they can have my back. Simple. Yeah. Easy peasy.
And then that bleeds into the conversation that we get before the challenge is announced the next day, where everyone's kind of talking about, okay, what are we going to do with the beaver? Like, what is our strategy going to be overall with the beaver? It felt very All-Stars 3. I don't know if you agree, David, but it was very much like, okay, what are we going to do with this? And then Morgan saying, I'm going to eliminate the strongest competitor. Like, it felt a little bit like that to me.
Well, my favorite part of this was Xana, because she's like, you know what? I'm not going to backstab anybody. I'm going to stab you in the front. You're going to see it coming.
Love it.
And I'm like, this is why I love her. Like, she's that kind of person, but she's so upfront about it. And it makes her really endearing for me personally.
Yeah.
What it made for me is to let me know that Xana is who Xana is. Like I said, I have no issues with Xana being who she is. That's who she is. I can appreciate her for that. And sometimes she might not be my cup of tea. And it is what it is. And so it's like, I felt like in this episode, we got a nice, well-rounded version of Xana. We saw the Xana that we saw last week, the very, snippy, very, sassy, very boss chick kind of vibe. And I'm not mad at it. Not mad at it. Like, do that. But then we also saw later on in this episode a part of Xana that we've never seen before. And I was like, oh, okay.
I can't wait to talk about that.
Well, I can't wait to talk about it. I fear I was right again when I said what I said last week. And I feel like Xana was giving us a show, but still being who she, like, I feel like Xana was giving us a show, and I feel like, I do think that's her personality, and I love that for her. But I also think right on the inside of that icy cold heart of hers, there's some warmth.
Oh, yeah.
There's some lovingness.
She's like an onion.
She's like an onion. We peeling back the
She has
layers. And I love
She's
that.
like an ogre.
She's like an ogre. But no, I do.
I'm referencing my favorite movie, Shrek.
What about
Shrek,
Cake?
of course.
Cake has layers.
Dana, I love you. I don't
She's
think
a
you look like an
biscuit.
ogre.
She's a flaky biscuit.
Xana is a biscuit.
I like
Let her soak you up.
Xana is a biscuit. Let him sop you up. Oh,
Period.
Xana is a biscuit.
I love it.
Let him sop you up. Sorry.
But yeah, I do. I think, like, I we'll talk about it later, but I'm just saying, I fear I was right.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I was right about Nikita. Mm-hmm.
You were? Yeah. Yeah.
The only other conversation that happened before anybody came into the workroom to announce the challenge that stood out to me was a conversation between Jaylene and Michaela. Once again, talking about both being trans women in the competition. And there was a quote, I wrote it down, that Jaylene said to Michaela. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how cool would it be to get this from her? She said, to see a trans woman at 21 years old standing in her power is like a dream come true. And I was like, that is so freaking sweet to hear from Jaylene. And they talked about the life expectancy of trans women of color being in their 30s. And Michaela's like, I don't know many trans elders, so this is very special to me.
Let me tell y'all how much this moment was so good and why it was so powerful. My sister, Courtney, doesn't even watch Drag Race Canada. She hasn't watched this season. And she saw this clip on TikTok where it was Jaylene talking to Michaela. And so I happened to have mentioned yesterday or Thursday when I was with her, I mentioned that we were doing exit interviews for, Canada. And she was like, oh, she said, I have watched the season. I just saw this part where the two trans women, she said, is that the season with the two trans women? I said, yes. And she was like, yeah. And they were talking about the life expectancy for trans women of color being 30. And she's like, that is such a powerful moment. And to see them talking about it is so powerful. She said, I might have to go back and watch. I said,
Period, Courtney. I
was like, I might have to get you on Wild Presents. I might have to, ask a couple people around and we can get you on Wild Presents because
happily.
It's so good and you should watch it. And she was like, I might have to. So that moment just transit, like they put that on TikTok, so it's out there for the world to see as well as it being on. But for people who's not watching it, to see two trans women having that conversation and having a 21-year-old say, I don't see a lot of elders in the trans community is wild. And I just was like, oh, I love that. I love that. And so that's a big, huge moment that rang a bell or like resonated with a lot of people. So I hope more and more people get to see that and have that kind of, and then we do finally get to see more trans elders in the POC community, period. So,
and I hope that other franchises take note. I think having Sasha Colby on US Drag Race also was a big part of that too, because she's not an older woman, but she is above the life expectancy of trans women of color around the world. And I hope that we get to see, and my real experience with, the breadth of trans entertainers is just within the US. Like that's my perspective. But I hope that we get to see a lot of these trans elders think that it want to be on Drag Race or something like that, and B, actually get cast. Because there are so many incredible, beautiful trans women, trans people, trans elders in the US and around the world, obviously, that deserve this platform just as much as the girls that are just starting drag. And it goes back to the conversations that we've been having all year about, you know, trans people getting cast more on Drag Race around the world, other members of the LGBT community, cis women that are, you know, lesbians getting cast on. The next step is drag kings, and I hope 2025 brings us a drag king finally. I hope it does. But it's just so beautiful to see, and it's another reason why this season is just gonna touch so many people. It touched your sister, who has literally never watched Drag Race before.
Well, she watched Drag Race. She's a fan of Drag
never
Race.
Watched Canada's Drag Race.
But never watched Canada's Drag Race. No, she watched Drag Race religiously.
I said it last week, and I'm going to continue to say it, I think, this whole season. This season is going to be impactful for a variety of ways. And Jaylene being on this season specifically is going to... her impact will be felt for decades.
It says she is mother. I felt it through the screen. And she is that.
She is mother.
She is
mother. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She is mother, she is auntie, she is all of it. Like,
Absolutely.
But let's talk about the team selections really quick. We talked about Michaela being picked last, but we have our teams, which end up being Tara picking Uma, Sanjina, and Xana. We have Tiffany picking Virgo,
Jaylene.
Oh Lord, Jaylene and Michaela, and then Perla picks Minnie and Helena.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about that, like specifically the order everybody is selected in, because like just hearing it, if you're Michaela, like you can have peace of mind, girl, because just listen to who is selected. Keep in mind the bottom three from last week, they were off the table. Like those could not be selected because they were the team captains. But first we have Tara picking Uma. Makes sense. Makes sense, especially knowing she puts on her own show. The Are You There, Margaret? It's Me, God. And then next we had Tiffany pick Jaylene.
Absolutely.
Makes sense. And then Perla picks Minnie. Minnie's been on Drag Race as a pit crew member. She knows how this show works. I think it makes sense. Then we have Tara pick Xana, who also puts on her own productions, who has experience in theater. Then Tiffany picks Virgo, who just is coming off a win from last week. Perla picks Helena, who's been doing drag one of the longest amounts of times of anybody in this cast. Like she's been doing it 10 years. And then we have our final two people. It's Sanjina and Michaela. And I think Tara said she wanted to pick Sanjina to like connect with her, I think is what she said. So I don't think Michaela should feel bad at all. Like somebody had to be last, and it's not anything to be ashamed of in this situation. I get it, but she shouldn't take that hard.
And I will say on that as well, to skip forward just a hot second, I am glad that Michaela allowed herself to feel that emotion, because I know I definitely would not have at that age. I would have bottled it up, and I would have just like completely suppressed it, and I wouldn't have openly talked about it and show that emotion. And so I'm really happy that she took her moment, and she was just like, it sucks. It feels like it's right back to middle school and getting picked last. And it's those kinds of things that I love seeing. And I'm really, really happy that she felt comfortable enough with the team that she had to express those emotions so openly, and to see Virgo, Tiffany, and Jaylene just be there for her, especially since we just had this moment with Jaylene and Michaela before the challenge. Like it's just gorgeous. I loved it.
Yeah. I felt like I understood her, like picking last is like nobody wants you. But in that moment, like you said, David, the order just made sense. And it had nothing to do with not wanting her. It's just we wanted to make sure we got people who we knew either done this before, is good at this. We don't really know what your skill levels are as far as acting wise and blah blah blah. So I think but she is very mature. Because I'm with you, Logan. There was no way I would have been able to express how upset I am in a way that was actually good. Like, I
Right.
would have been either very upset, mad, like, there you put me last. And so now I'm going to be petty and then I'm going to show you that you should.
Right.
So,
Because I
but
probably would have been a little bit like, so why didn't you pick me?
right.
Like,
Why didn't you pick? I would have harped on the foolishness instead of just feeling what I felt, letting the process, and then moving along. So I love that she was mature enough to handle it like she did. She talked to him. They reassured, like Tiffany was very reassuring, like, I wanted you anyway. I'm very glad I got you.
And I believe her.
And I do believe her. I do believe Tiffany.
She
really
had all
wanted
3 tops from last week.
So it was like, absolutely, you wanted who you wanted. And so I love that happened for them, but it was good.
And I think for me, like, if I had been picked last, I might have let it like
Fester.
spiral a little bit. And she had that option, but she said, I'm determined to show that I am worth being picked earlier. And
absolutely.
And I think it did have an effect on what we see later on in the episode.
Oh, it definitely. She was determined to show them that she is not somebody you want to sleep on. Now, was it successful? Her showing was, talk about it.
Right. I think it is worth pointing out what each of the teams were given for their PSAs. So each of the teams, I don't remember if we said it, each of the teams has to teach an alien what life is like on Earth, which I'm like, okay, this is really interesting. So they each have to focus on a specific topic with their PSA. So Team Terra was given families. They have to teach an alien what is a family like.
What is a family?
What is a family? Is that a family?
Is that a family? Yeah, we'll get to it.
For sure. Team Tiffany was given sexuality, not sex, but sexuality.
Right.
And then Team Perla was given manners. Did a specific topic stand out to you as something that you would want to work with?
Oh, absolutely. I would have wanted manners so bad because manners is the easiest one for me. I think that I could teach somebody about, because sexuality was the hardest one for me because it's so many different ways you could go about talking about sexuality. And how do you teach somebody about sexuality, especially if you don't even know what sexuality you are completely, fully, or how many different layers of sexuality there is? That's a lot to talk about, and trying to put it in a minute, because they had a minute to do this PSA. So you have to talk about sexuality in a minute would have been the hardest thing to do, because there's so much information about sexuality. I think the best way would have been just focus on one or maybe 2 types of sexuality. But then that's like, but if I only focus on 2 types of sexuality, I'm leaving out a plethora of other sexuality or the whole spectrum of sexuality. I would have wanted to steer clear from sexuality. I would have rather talked about manners. Family would have been but I feel like family would have been boring. But manners, we can talk about manners. I can figure that would have been my best bet.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel like both family and sexuality are a bit like been there, done that for Drag Race. Like, we've seen so many things involving both of those topics, and manners just feels like, oh, that's something different. That's not something that's addressed frequently on the show. So I don't know if I'm being results oriented, but that was the topic that I was like,
but that's what stood out to me the second she said it. I was, or Brooklyn said it, I was like, oh, that's the one I would want. Like, I literally would want that. I don't want sexuality. Definitely don't want that one. And family is
I feel like sexuality stood out. I agree with you both. I feel like sexuality stood out as like the kind of odd topic out. Like, I like family. Yes, it's been done a few times. I get it. I liked family and I loved manners. I do agree with you. I think I probably would have wanted family, just like, and I probably honestly would have gone a similar direction to what Tara and her team did end up going with. I don't even know what I would do for a third one. Maybe like customs or like traditions.
Traditions.
I think traditions could have been a really good additional topic. Like, some people celebrate these holidays, but other people celebrate these other holidays, and like, I think that could have been an easier topic. because sexuality, like you said, Lana, in a minute, it's just not that feasible.
There's so many layers of sexuality, especially nowadays where everybody is being with this. We are able to be free about our choices in life and what we want in sexuality is so much. It's not just straight or gay. That's not it. That's not the whole thing, because we have people who are asexual and pansexual and bisexual, and all. Sexuality is a lot to deal with in a minute. I would have been like, "Oh, child, no, thank you."
And we'll talk about it, but I think that group did the absolute best that they could with what they were given, honestly. But let's move, I believe, to the workroom segments before we film.
Yeah.
The big one that stood out for me was Perla kind of just having another moment and really just like not being able to convey use words. And as someone who
words are hard.
Words are hard sometimes.
Words are hard, David. We found it out yesterday. Words are hard.
Words are really hard, especially like for all of us. Words are hard. So I get it, and I understand like not having the most confident day in the world and feeling like, oh crap, this is like it just is gonna keep piling on. And I was like, no, Perla, no, Perla, no. But we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I did like how Minnie instantly was like, "Are you okay?" Like saw what was happening.
Right.
And Helena, as soon as she was clued in, was like, "Okay, cool. I got to support my team captain here. Good." This was a gorgeous trio. We'll talk about it more.
Minnie for me in this moment was like, I just like, and I was like, okay, I like Minnie a little bit more.
We have a lot to say about Minnie, don't we?
I have a lot. I really like
we were talking about it yesterday.
Yeah.
We like Minnie.
If I had a top shelf for this episode, it might be Minnie.
Minnie would be in the conversation for me, because I was like, Minnie, okay, because Minnie, like you said, Minnie was just like, hold on, recognize there's an issue here. You're doing a little too much. You okay? Are you cool? You good? And Perla was like, she's like, slow down. Think about it. Let your words come out. It's just like it felt very like Minnie was the teacher and the child, and Perla was the child who was just too excited and overthinking it and doing a whole lot. And Minnie was like, hold on. Let's bring it back in, reel it in, calm it down, breathe. Now, what are you trying to say? And Perla was like, okay.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. And it was just a nice ebb and flow with them. Like they had a synergy about that group that we felt in that workroom, that I was like, oh, they're gonna be fine. I was like, oh, they're going to be fine. I was like, if they don't win this, they're going to be one of the good ones. We go walk away from them saying they did good. And we hadn't seen nothing. We didn't know nothing, but I was like, I just think from watching this moment here and how they interacted with each other, I was like, we're going to like this group. I don't know.
I forget Minnie is a lot older than I remember her being.
Yeah, she's old.
No, but like she gives. I know, but to my point, like, and you give that same energy, David. But it's like there's a wiseness but also with this like youthful energy. And
we're both really sexy.
Really, yes. Very
don't laugh too hard, Lana.
Sensual, very,
I was about to come back and be like, you said it, not me.
We did declare you the daddy of the podcast.
Daddy, period.
So,
here.
But
yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about Tara's team, because I found like their dynamic to be one of the most interesting during these preparations, because immediately Tara is like, okay, I want to designate somebody to be the writer and director of this team, which makes sense. And she gave it to Uma.
Yes.
If there is any single person qualified to do it out of everybody in this cast, it is Uma.
It's Uma.
So that makes sense. But here's where it got interesting, because Xana is very type A. Xana knows what she's capable of. So she's like, well, I have a lot of experience too. I've done theater, I've done productions. So I think I should be involved in this as well. So we kind of get these two clashing forces, and it just became very interesting because you could feel the tension between the two, and it got petty. It got petty in the best way, where Xana was like, okay, how can I question this girl as much as possible? Hey, I see you're taking notes. Are you labeling the pages so they don't get mixed up?
Are we on page 1?
I was like,
Numa's like, well, I guess I can.
I lived. Oh, that is the level of petty that I just love. Like, truly, I just fucking love Xana.
Poor Uma. She was like, where is this tension coming from?
Right.
I was sitting here like, Xana, I see you, girl. I see what you doing.
Xana
Am I
do be
mad at
petty.
Xana do be petty.
Xana do be petty. And I was like, I ain't mad at this. Because it's a little bit funny. It's a little bit funny, but then I was like, but let's not get too petty. Suck it up. We got a job to do. Do your job. But don't let the pettiness outdo what you came here to do. And I don't think she did. I think it was the right amount of petty, but I felt like she wanted to, like you said, she's type A. She want to be the boss. And I don't think she likes when other people tell somebody else to do something that she knows she can't do. And she's like, hello, I'm sitting right here. And that's no shade to Xana at all. And I don't think Tara was trying to be shady to Xana either. I just think Tara was like, look, we know what she got. We know this one right here. I don't know. I ain't never seen your productions. I've seen her productions, and I want that. But then when she was like, "Oh, you write too? Good. You write with y'all. Get together. And y'all come up with something for us to do." And me and Sanjina, we'll sit here and we'll do what y'all.
And as Tara told us yesterday in our exit interview with her, she was like, "I know Uma's really good at productions. I'm gonna let her do that. I know Xana is the boss and the CEO, so I know she can manage everything.
Yep.
And Sanjina and here Sanjina and I are just funny, goofy bitches.
We're gonna do what we told and make it funny.
We're gonna do what we need to do to make it funny. Now, I think one of them did, and I think one of them struggled a little bit. We'll talk about it. But
the other group, for Tiffany's group, I was like, I don't know, because they weren't really coming up with anything. They were like, we got these ideas. Like, they were spitballing a lot. Like, we could do this, we could do this, we can do this. Nothing was hitting to paper. Nothing was like, okay, we're going to do this. Let's write this down. This is what we're going to say. It was like, I got this idea. Yeah, this is a good idea. Okay, this is a good idea. And that's how they went to set, with a bunch of ideas and nothing to paper. And I was like, oh, no, this isn't, oh, no, I'm scared for them. And I was really scared for it because I'm like, not Michaela, Jaylene, and Tiffany, people who I really, really am.
And Virgo,
all the people I like on one team. And
literally, I was like,
no, I don't want it. I was like, no.
But I love everyone on this season, so I'm just like every week's gonna be really difficult because I'm like, no, but I'm glad you're doing well, but no, I don't want you to do bad. Like, it really was like, oh God, like this is either gonna turn out amazing or an absolute disaster, and somehow it was still neither. We'll talk about it.
Because so they go to set. They go to set because now it's time to just go and do it. Brooklyn is like, go forth and do. Now we gave you your time. Go forth and do. And Brooklyn told them they got 15 minutes to do it all together. Yeah. The first group was Tara's group. And
family group.
Family first. And so they were like, we need a couch. Pit crew, bring us the couch. They bring out the couch. Everybody was excited. And they're like, it was funny because they were like, my favorite part was like, they're like, oh, pit crew, not you, Minnie. I mean, it was like,
But also,
Love
can
that.
we talk about how this is the first season with pit crew since season 1, apparently?
And I didn't notice.
I didn't
Really?
realize. Yes.
Hmm.
They said it in this episode, and I was like, oh, I guess you're right.
Well, welcome back, Pit Crew. Welcome
back, pit crew. These were some good pit crews. I'm not mad.
Crew.
Mhm.
That's good looking. And so they going through the mode, doing the thing, and the family unit, and we had, this is a family, this is not a family, and I was like, what's not a family?
Right. They're pointing.
They're pointing this, but this is not.
Brooke's
This
like, I want to know. I want to
is
know what it is.
Right.
Can't
I was
wait to
like,
find out.
I can't wait to that. Literally, I was like, well, I guess we got to wait to the end to find out what's not a family and what is
Right.
a family. But it was cute. They were moving. They were grooving.
Quick, in and
They
out.
were in and out. Like it. I don't look. Did they take the whole 15 minutes? I don't know. But
I don't know.
they was moving and doing all their little moving parts, and you know, from what I saw, I was like, okay, this could turn out well. We'll see what happens in post and see what they add in there. See what.
Right.
Or take out an
take
actually, if somebody said it twice.
Right. So I was like, we'll see what happens.
That did stand out to me when she said actually twice in the same sentence before anybody else said it. I'm like, oh, she said actually twice. And then I don't remember.
That's how I write too. It's like, and I speak like that sometimes. I'm like, I realize it, and then other people will point it out to me, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Actually, I did actually say it twice, didn't I?
Right.
Actually, I do think
I think I actually said it again. Yeah.
Uma said, they'll take care of it.
We'll
in
take care of
post.
post, or will
No,
they?
they didn't.
They did not.
They didn't.
No, they left it in.
They left
it
it
in.
in there. It was funny.
And Brooke is like, there's specific lines like in the script that you all are just skipping over. And apparently they decided to cut some, but didn't remove it from the script.
Right.
So that just left.
Well, I think it was a timing thing. I think it was like, and Uma was saying like, oh, we cut a couple of things for time.
Right. Which happens. You have to do that from time to time.
It definitely happens, yeah.
But then we move on to the second group, was Tiffany's group.
Correct, yes.
And Brooke was quickly noticing, she said, I have storyboards here. I have no script. And they were like, well, we don't have a script for you. We just got it all up in here. What we're going to say. And I was like, oh no, famous last words.
Literally, I was like, this is about to be the bottom 4.
I was like,
I'm literally going to sob.
I'm going to cry. And we saw Michaela literally step up and like take the leadership role in this.
I'm sorry, Lana. You're eating your words right now.
Oh,
can you say that part again? Sorry, go on.
I'm sorry. We saw Michaela step up to be the leader of this group. Better?
Okay, Lana, I'm going to need you to do that one more time. And I'm going to need a little bit more, you know what I mean?
Okay.
It's not one more giving, time. Like,
it's not giving what I want it to give. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. We saw Michaela step up and become the leader of the group.
Great job, Lana. Great.
Thank you. Okay. I felt all of my insecurities come back in that moment. I felt all of my insecurities rise up to the top. And I was I felt like I was letting the group down. So I had to step it up.
Now you need to be in your head for the rest of this session.
Yes.
Yeah. I felt so bad for Tiffany here because I've been her. I've really been her in those like pressure moments where it's like, I'm going to get in like something went wrong. Someone else has pointed it out. I'm spiraling now. Like, so relatable.
Now that's all I'm thinking about is where I messed up.
Yeah. I'm not able to focus on anything else that's going on because I'm spiraling in my own head and I don't have the words to convey that I'm spiraling in my own head because I need to be professional right now. God, I felt for Tiffany here. I felt so bad for her. I was just like,
yeah. I had really complicated thoughts watching this because, first of all, I really respect Michaela for taking this initiative, for taking the lead in the situation. Because even the part that she pointed out, I had trouble with the diction that I was getting from Tiffany. So I was like, oh, cool. It makes sense that you would point that out. She was really taking command. It was a little intense.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing is, if I was Tiffany, knowing I'm 11 years older than this girl who's just calling me out right now, I think I would have to really check my pride really hard to not be like, who do you think you are right
Who are you
now?
talking to?
Yeah.
Who are you talking to like
Girl. All right.
Wait a minute.
Who you talking to?
Who are you?
I'd be like,
Very
hold on, Miss Girl.
Right. And I respect Tiffany for handling that maturely because I don't think Michaela was like it's a weird situation because if you're Michaela, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm younger than her. That doesn't mean
But
I
I'm trying
can't
to
have
help
my
her.
opinion.
Right.
I want to do well.
Yeah.
I'm trying
but-
to make the group better. What do you mean?
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
Right.
They both handled it with such grace,
They
and
did.
I appreciate that. But it was interesting to see them go on through the challenge and come with no script, and just like it felt like they were going off the top of the dome. But in some moments, it was like, oh, that's really funny. So that can be for like Jaylene. Oh my God, so stupidly funny.
I was
in that.
cracking up.
I was killing myself.
Jaylene clearly has studied Drag Race a little bit and knows what to do in these scenarios where like she knows she doesn't have a huge part, but she's gonna make her part matter.
Mhm.
And just this, we'll talk about it when we talk about the challenge itself, but just this blush and this makeup that she did here, I was like, you know how to stand out in this group with such little airtime. And I mean, really appreciated that from her.
She literally just in the scene with 2 pit crew members and 2 mannequin heads, and just was. I was just like, "What is happening?" But I remember that so vividly. Like that's been living rent free in my head since I watched it, and it's just like, girl, just so. Like you said, very small part, but she took it and made such an impact. It was so funny. It was so funny. And so I was like, I think that could save this.
Rent was due. Tiffany was in her head. Michaela had taken over the group. Virgo was doing pretty well. No script, no plan. Jaylene had a whole lot of Anastasia Beverly Hills blush. Or no, Shoppers Drug Mart blush. Sorry, wrong franchise. She had a lot of Shoppers Drug Mart blush. She had 2 mannequin heads, 2 pit crew members, and a dream. And she did what she needed to do.
Maybe she ate it down. She ate it. And I was like, I felt like, I was like, okay, because her part and Virgo's part, and I was like, okay, maybe this is saving it. Because I thought it was funny. I thought Michaela's was the little that we saw in the rehearsal. Her part was a little funny, but I was like, I don't know where this is going. So let's find out. Mm-hmm. I felt like it had hope. Once we saw this rehearsal, I was like, okay, maybe it worked itself out and it'll be great. And, once we see the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But then, excuse me, here comes Manners. And I was like, God. Yo.
It was a rough start, though.
It started, but Helena was like, oh, what's my part? Okay, hold on, wait. And then even Perla was like introducing herself and went right over, not letting nobody else introduce themselves. They're like, we're here too, girl. It's like, oh, my bad. Oops,
they all got their nerves out of the way, and I love that after they all all 3 of them had a bit of a stumble, and then they were like, oh no, let's just settle in and have fun. Like, and that's what I wanted to see. As soon as I saw Minnie with the dead face, I was like, oh, this group is gonna be good. Like
Minnie first, from the moment Minnie said, I'm Minnie. I was like, I'm Minnie. I'm Minnie. I was like, stop.
And today we're gonna teach you about manners. Mm-hmm. I really wish David had done it with us and he didn't.
Sorry. I'm a viewer.
Manners. Thank you.
I forgot the script.
He forgot. Look, go look at the script.
Okay, let's try. Okay, one more time. One more time.
Hold on.
I'm Logan.
And I'm Lana.
And I'm David.
And today we're going to teach you all about manners.
So stupid. But so good. From that moment, I was like, oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be good.
They knew what they needed to do with this challenge, and it was amazing.
I think Pearl is overthinking, Minnie's like level-headedness, and Helena's like wit and just great ideas. They came in prepared. They did not come in with just a storyboard. They had a script. They knew who was saying what. They knew how they wanted this to look. Like they like planned this out. And I'm like, absolutely. You gotta come in so prepared that even if it goes longer, they can cut some out and it still be good. Mm-hmm. They came super prepared, and that was just funny when Helena put her face in that pie and was like, "You eat with a fork and a spoon. You don't put your mouth hole or your food hole to the food." And she like, blah, blah, blah. I was like, and then come back in the next scene.
And I have more to say about that when we talk about the challenge itself. Because, oh my god!
But even like in between like takes, yes. So we were seeing funny things that they were doing, and then they were being funny in between takes.
Takes,
like the part where they were like, "Okay, camera 3 for Perla," and Perla's like, "Let's dance, camera 3."
Camera 3.
And then after the pie part,
pants.
Yes, the pie part with Helena. After that, she's like, "Tastes like a challenge win to me." Right? So they left us no doubt. I would have been shocked if they were not the top group this week.
I would have been shocked too. I'm like, even from this rehearsal, this is telling me they winning. Mm-hmm. This tells me they win because God, it was so funny. Even the rehearsal or in the whole thing, I thought it was so good. I was excited for it. I was like, I can't wait to see the finished product of this one. All the other ones, I was like, I want to see what it looked like, but I can't wait to see what this finished product looks like.
Yeah. Let's talk about, as we've kind of all talked about a little bit, maybe one of the most emotionally grabbing and just beautiful moments I've ever seen on Drag Race ever. I don't remember. How do we start this conversation? I don't remember.
Well, it started with Michaela talking about her look that she was going to have and showing off her proud Jamaican culture and bringing the Caravana Carnival to the runway. And so we were like starting to hear what people were going to do for the time and place runway. And that's where we get the lead in from Jaylene. And she talked about the look that she was going to wear and how it was important to show her indigenous culture. And she wanted to inform people. She was like, "Are you all familiar with the 60s scoop?"
Yes.
Because I'm a 60s scoop adoptee. And I'm like, okay, I have no idea what this means. Please tell us.
I had a little bit of context for it. I had heard the term before. But to really just find out about, it all has to do with losing their indigeneity and the colonization of these indigenous Canadians.
Yeah, they were specifically in the 60s. There were children, thousands of children taken out of the homes, their homes, and they were put up for adoption for mostly white families. I guess as an attempt to try to remove that culture completely.
Absolutely.
Like cut it off with the children, and then they won't have that culture moving forward. It is sick. It is sick. Just knowing what humanity is capable of. It's shocking. And this wasn't that long ago.
No. And they're still trying to do that today. They're still trying to have children not learn about their culture in schools or in take them out. Be honest. They want Black history gone from schools because it makes white people uncomfortable. So now you want a whole generation of children growing up not knowing Black history. So these Black children are going to lose their culture in these schools if nobody teaches them. But what they did to these indigenous people is even worse, because they took them from their homes and they placed them in other homes, and they told them they have like explicit instructions not to talk about their culture. You only indoctrinate them with our culture and what we want you to teach them. And so these people grew up not knowing who their family is, not even knowing about their culture, and they had to learn it later on in life. And it's like, some people, once you get older, you don't take the time to go back and learn. You're like, yeah, I'm already fine where I am. But some people do. And I love that Jaylene talked about how she is still learning and coming into her culture, and how she just is ingraining herself more and more into her cultures as she gets older, because now she's learning things. And then we had Xana, who was like, I had no idea. She said, my grandparents was part of that. And she said, I've been very, I guess you can call it, fortunate to be white passing. So I never had to think about my indigenous culture, but I know it's there. And I've never been able to tap into that side of my life. And I would love to do that. I would really love to do that. And Jaylene
reclaim her indigeneity.
Reclaim her, right.
Yeah.
Especially
because she lives in Vancouver, and the last of the residential schools were closed not that many years ago in BC. I've always been very cognizant of, you know, indigenous, like the mistreatment of indigenous peoples throughout North America. This really all just put it in a lot more perspective for me as someone that doesn't have those experiences. Just learning about, like, it was not that long ago. And that really just like hit me. And then to have Xana, you know, Xana's conversation just it just
hits the nerve, because it's like, she said her grandparents were in that. So it's like you said, not long ago. All of this stuff that we want to talk about, it's in the past, we should let it go. It was less than 60 years ago. That's not that far off. People are still alive today who went through that, who went through being scooped out of their homes and taken away and adopted into these other families and just indoctrinated in a whole other culture that is not their own. So now they have to learn and relearn and figure things out and get in touch, and so that their culture doesn't just disappear off the map. Like, it's wild. And Jaylene immediately hearing that from Santa was like, I'll be right back. And she went and got a scarf that she got that was part of
Métis sash.
A sash.
Yeah, Métis sash,
and got the Métis sash and brought it back and was like, I want you to have this so you could have a piece of our culture in your life, because you're on it now. We can put you on the journey of learning about the Métis culture and reclaiming your indigeneity. And that's like, that is so stinking powerful. Like, that's so freaking powerful. Reclaim who you are, because people tried to steal it from you. And I hope the movement in Canada and all over North America for all of these indigenous cultures to reclaim your culture. Be proud of your culture. Be out and about and loving who you are, because baby, I'm gonna love me, and I want you to love you, and I want everybody to just respect each other's culture is so beautiful to learn. And I don't understand why people want to take it away and don't want to learn about how well-rounded you will be the more you learn about other people's culture, instead of looking at it like, oh, that's weird. Embrace it, learn it, love it. And if it's not for you, it's not for you, because there's some cultures out there that's just not for you. And that's fine. But don't be trying to change people. I'm so annoyed. It bothers me.
For me, it feels like the attempts to kind of erase somebody's culture is really in a weird, twisted way, like intended for good. I feel like a lot of people are trying to remove the pain associated to what happened to that culture, what happened in the history. Forget that pain, so we can move forward. We can all be positive and all that. But I think what really happens is you're just creating new pain. That pain is still there, and now there's a new pain on top of it. It may be surface level. It's not going to be felt, but eventually people are going to see what's happening. And I think that's why this conversation was so powerful. Honestly, we could talk about this for a while because there's so much that we haven't even dived into yet from this conversation.
What you said, Dave, was so important. It makes you, it does bring in a new pain because now it makes you feel like what we went through was, it doesn't mean anything. Yeah. And it's taking away the importance of the pain. Like, we went through so much pain and overcome this pain, and you're telling me, your pain isn't that important. Yeah. Let's just get to kumbaya. Well, guess what? We didn't start off kumbaya. We didn't come here, and in this the indigenous people weren't just happily placed somewhere else. Like, this is it was bad. We need to accept the bad, but it's people's uncomfortability is what, like you said, I think it's well-intentioned. Well-intended. Like, I want everybody to not think about the pain, but that's how people grow. We take the pain, we learn from it, and
not
go
F the pain away.
Not F the pain away.
The perspective that it's supposed to be, the perspective that it's well-intended is simply just because it's the perspective of the people that don't have that experience.
Right.
And unless you have that experience, you're not going to be able to fully understand those experiences because you just have not had them. I will not ever fully understand the mistreatment of Black people here in the US, of all racial minorities here in the US, of indigenous peoples across North America and across the world. I'm never going to understand that fully. But having this knowledge makes me understand those people better. And again, it's one of those reasons why I just love watching Drag Race from all over the world, because like you were talking about, Lana, exploring other cultures that you're not familiar with only makes you a more well-rounded person.
Empathetic person too.
Empathetic too.
Absolutely. There is an absolute level of empathy that I had never had before. And it makes me also want to learn more about my culture, because I don't know a whole lot about my culture and where specifically I come from, because I think I've talked about it once or twice on here. I don't know my biological father. So there's half of my genetic makeup that I still don't know. And regardless of what it is, like, I would like to be more in tune with, where my family has come from. And all of that just makes me want to know more about those things within myself. And I absolutely love it. And then to top off this conversation, after Xana and Jaylene have this incredible emotional moment, then we have Virgo joining in the conversation, also talking about how she's never been able to really express her indigeneity either. And also having an Afro-Indigenous perspective on this. I hope we get to hear Virgo have more conversations about this. I hope it's not limited to just this. I'm so happy that Xana had her moment here, and Xana and Jaylene had this beautiful moment, especially because Jaylene knew Xana before this. They live in the same city, and talked about how Xana has raised so much money for Indigenous cultures and has done so much for Indigenous people in general. Like, having that, I hope that I'm so happy that Xana and Jaylene had that moment. I hope Virgo also gets that moment on this season. And just the impact that this cast is going to have on a whole. Like, the amount of diverse, completely separate perspectives that these 11 people bring to this season is just so magical to watch, and it's so beautiful to see.
It's beautiful.
And and that's what I've loved about every season of Canada's Drag Race. And the one thing that Canada's Drag Race has done in all of their seasons is talk about their Indigenous contestants. And there has been at least one on every season. And I'm happy that this season we have 3. And that is incredible to see.
Yep.
And then on top of that, we'll talk about Serene. I'm going to start crying, and I'm glad I'm wearing glasses, so it's not going to be as visible. But it's just, oh my God, it's so beautiful.
There's one thing I wanted to make sure we don't skip over, and Lana touched on it, but we heard Jaylene talking about kind of embracing her culture a few years ago, but we didn't talk about the fact that she was reconnected with her birth parents, which is incredible.
Yes.
Just knowing that aspect of it, she got to go back to the land where she would have been raised if she wasn't taken out, and if she wasn't put into 4 different homes before she was 5 years old. And she got to experience what it was like to be on the earth that she was meant to be on. And it was so powerful for her. I just could hear her talk about her story for hours. Like, I watched a movie about it. It just feels so special. And Virgo said it. She's like, this is unreal. She said watching it just felt unreal, just experiencing even like something she's connected with. It's like she had an outside perspective. So just this whole thing was one of my favorite moments of the year.
It was, absolutely. It was so good. And I just want to say, people live, if this kind of conversations and this kind of thing makes you uncomfortable because you were on the wrong side of history, it's okay. You have to live in your uncomfortableness sometimes. And that's the thing. And that's where, when we're talking about well-intended people and intentions, it's because people are uncomfortable. And they feel uncomfortable because they were on the wrong side of history during that time. And it's okay. You just have to live in your uncomfortableness and just accept it. Be like, you know what? This is not right. And I know it wasn't, and I was a part of it. But now you can change. You can change your perspective on things. Like, I was wrong and I did this. Instead of doubling down and continuing the madness and continuing trying to erase people's culture, just take a step back and what if we were doing the same thing to you? What would you have done if somebody came into your home, took you out of your home, and put you and said you can't learn anything about where you came from? And I'm like, that's, if we just take a moment and stop fighting each other and just stop and think, what would it happen to me if somebody told me I can't learn about my culture? How would that make me feel? And maybe we could get to that point where we can be united and kumbaya if people just let people live their lives the way they want to live their lives, instead of trying to regulate and tell people how you should do it, because how you do it is not how I do it. And that's fine, because how somebody else do it may not be how you do it. It's fine.
And why take those people away from what they know based on the fact that you are not willing to understand them and their culture and where they come from and their traditions? Like, why, as well-intentioned as things may have been, at the end of the day, it has caused permanent damage to these communities all over the world because white people weren't willing to understand.
But yeah, it's a lot. We could probably talk about this for more hours on hours.
We could be here for another hour.
But we won't. We won't. We will move on. Because we have a runway to get to and all that other stuff.
Yes. I just want to say, to conclude the conversation, thank you, Jaylene. Thank you, Xana. Thank you, Virgo. Thank you, everyone on this season, for sharing yourselves so openly and so beautifully And I can't wait to see all of the conversations that we're going to have on this season, because we've, in 2 episodes, have had so many beautiful conversations that it's just so magical to watch, and I feel so honored to be able to watch this season.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, let's talk about the runway. Let's go to the runway, shall we? Runway, run. What a hot panel. I wanna start with Serene, because so thrilled Serene Fox is back. I'm glad that it seems like she is a permanent member of the panel, practically. And I'm really happy to see it. Her and her moments with Jaylene on this runway in this episode just added to how special this episode was. And to have Serene and Jaylene here at the same time, and Serene recognize and acknowledge Jaylene for everything she is doing, and to have that shown to us was just so beyond magical. Like, and on top of that, as soon as Serene walked out, I was like, oh, this is going to be incredible. And she looks so incredible. And I love that over the years that we've seen Serene on the show, she has felt more confident in showing her culture. And I am so happy that we have Serene here as a semi-permanent member of the panel, expressing her indigeneity just as much as the contestants are too. And to have that is just so special. And we thanked everybody else already. I want to thank Serene as well for just being such an incredible representation on this panel. I love her.
Absolutely.
I love her.
Absolutely. It was a special moment indeed between when her and when Jaylene came out. I loved it. And we'll talk about it, because look over here happens and all the looks and thoughts that come out over there.
But Brooke in her little Scoochie Woochie dress, she pulled out her RuPaul. This is her best RuPaul drag. Category is RuPaul. Brooklyn would win. I loved it.
It's giving Texas hair very much. The higher the hair, the closer to God, baby. She was touching God's toes on that with that hair. It's lovely. It's lovely. And Tracy looks lovely.
Gorge. And our guest judge, Peaches, who I also love.
She's wearing fuzzy shoes.
With her. I love
She's wearing fuzzy shoes. Love the fuzzy shoes.
The vinyl top with Protect Queer Kids. Just, oh God, I love it. Or trans youth. It was trans youth, yeah.
Yes. Peaches is actually like a formative memory in my like early coming out experience, because I remember like when I first started going to the gay clubs back in 2012, like it was so scary for me, like terrifying. I was like shaking the first time I went. But like within like the first month of me going to like the gay bars and seeing drag shows, I remember a queen. Her name was The Widow, and she would always like dress like an old woman. But I remember seeing her perform for the first time, and she performed F the Pain Away by Peaches. And I was like, what is this? What is going on? And that song has always been stuck like in my memory from seeing that drag performance. Yeah, and it's been 12 years now. But yeah, I was like, so I actually have always wanted this to be done on Drag Race, this song, and we'll talk about it later on. But I was like, can this be done? Because it's very explicit, like it's the F word.
On Canada's Drag Race, you sure can.
And it starts out sucking on my titties like you want. And I'm like, can that be done on Drag Race?
And I was so happy when we got her song last year during the Lollapalooza, or the Slay Off, as they call it. when Aurora and Melinda did it. I was like, oh, how fun. I love that. So I'm glad that we got Peaches on this season.
Yeah, me too.
And I think she was a great guest judge too. Like,
She was fun.
great critique. Falling into, what she's giving critique on the things that she can and she has experience with, and not, trying to over critique. And I don't love a guest judge that over critiques, but I think she did the right amount of critique for her. I would have loved to see her on some musical based challenge. I'll say that, but I loved having her here for sure. So we kind of did a
really
very deep dive into the challenge already. David, I don't know. Did you rank overall all the performances for this one?
I did not. I could easily rank the teams.
Right.
I think we could easily rank the teams.
Yeah. So I will just briefly talk about the first team. I thought they were pretty good. Like, I like their concept that they went. I just wish that their whole, is that a family? I wish it was funnier. Like, the things that they would go to, it would be like one object laying there. And I don't know. I feel like there's ways that they could have done it where it would be more of like closer to what a family could be, but still not quite like a person and a burger. Like, is that a family?
Right. There needed to be an increased level of absurdity to the things that they were saying. Like, I would have loved if it was just like the pit crew guys making out. Is that a family? No, that's just two homosexuals making out.
Right.
Like, that would have been a bit better.
I did actually write in my notes as I watched that Xana was a standout. So I liked Xana in this challenge, and I liked Uma. I thought they were the two standouts. I think Sanjana faded a little bit, and with Tara, I liked her character. They just didn't give her much to do. She was just sitting there and saying, is that a family? They would like lift her up and move her around a little bit, but I wanted them to give her a little more to work with.
Yeah, for me, I thought Uma was the standout. I was like, Uma stood out the most for me. Xana will be next, I guess, and then Sanjana and Tara probably on the same level of standouts in the group.
Yeah, I think the things I'm gonna remember from this group are from Xana and Uma. I just wish Tara had been able to lean into the physical comedy of it, because there were a couple of moments, unfortunately, where she just looked dead in the face, and I understand that for an alien, but I would have loved a bit more absurdity in her presentation of it as well. I think Sanjana did a perfectly good job. I love Sanjana dearly, but I probably would have put her in the bottom 3 over Xana in this challenge for me. I would have had her low safe for sure.
That's not an option.
Well, that's the option I'm giving. If I had the beaver, I would have saved Sanjana.
Yeah.
Group number 2. David, what did you think about that?
Sorry, what's that?
Group number 2.
Group 2, yes. So group 2, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it's really hard to rank the first 2 groups, because one of them, I like their concept better, but the other one, I think, had more highlight moments, but the concept just was not very cohesive. So I liked what most everybody did in this group. I do think the intro with Tiffany was way too long. It was like, oh, she's still talking. So I wish they had shortened that a little bit. I thought Michaela was really good in her segment. Virgo, I honestly don't really remember much of what she did. She was a lesbian part. I do remember that.
Baby.
And then Jaylene was clearly the standout in this group. But I think they were the most disconnected, because there was not a lot of shared screen time other than when Tiffany and Virgo were making out. Most of the time, they were each doing their own thing. And it was so different what each of them was doing. I wish it felt a little more cohesive like the other 2 teams. And so that's why I'm like, oh, how do I rank the first 2 groups? Because both of them were good, but they could have been much better. So,
yeah. I think I agree with you. I think I agree with you about the different, like, it felt so disconnected, but it felt like everybody was doing, like you said, their own skit within the skit. And it was like, okay, so we had Michaela's part, which was good for that. And then Virgo's part was good for that. And then Jaylene's part was really good for that. And Tiffany was the one to just start us off. And it was okay. It wasn't horrible. It was just okay. So it was.
Oh, no.
Oh no.
Oh, no. They silenced her.
Yeah,
Lana
so
has been silent. Oh,
I have
Lana is no longer silenced. Oh, Lana's
she
silenced
is.
again. Oh, Lord Jesus. Oh, Lord.
So I don't know where this group ends up. I feel like they were very disjointed and disconnected, but that's my thoughts.
Yeah, the lack of a script and the lack of like a full concept, like fleshed out, really did unfortunately hurt this group a lot. For me, the standouts were Jaylene and Virgo. Jaylene, obviously, with just how exaggerative her physical comedy was, I was really happy to see that. And I didn't know what to expect from Jaylene when it came to comedy, but I'm glad to see that like her physical comedy was really good. She had the standout moment with the pit crew and the mannequin heads. Like that was the moment of this, definitely. I think Virgo was really funny. Virgo plays the quote unquote straight man character very, very well, and that because shocker, she's an earth sign, so she's able to really she really did a lot of work grounding this scene in like a little bit of like funny. I love that she went for the butch character. Like I think all of that really worked. Michaela, I think Michaela did fine. I think Michaela did perfectly fine. Had she been in the bottom three, I wouldn't have been honestly that surprised. I wouldn't have put her there, but I would have understood had she landed there. And I think anyone in this scenario would have used the beaver on Michaela for sure. So I don't think she was at risk at all of lip syncing. And I think her runway pulled her out of any of that. I just don't think she stood out as much as I would have liked her to. I think her character more than any other really felt very disjointed from the rest of the little the vignettes that we got, because it was just a series of vignettes that they did.
Right.
I actually really would have loved if Tiffany and Michaela swapped roles. I think Michaela as the narrator character and like presenting all of the segments, I think she would have been able to pull off that character. And I think Tiffany could have played if you're going to go with the heterosexuality thing, I get why they did it with Michaela being like the like reverend, the pastor, the preacher, whatever. I think it's a good character for Michaela. But I think Tiffany could have played the heterosexuality thing a little bit stronger than the role she played.
I think that if they were going to have Tiffany in that role, it would have to be something completely different, because I feel like the church lady was made specifically for Michaela.
Oh, I'm not saying her being the church lady at all, because I agree with you completely. I just think I think if she had gone the like ditzy girl, like I'm heterosexual,
I got my boyfriend.
I've got my boyfriend and I love getting fucked by my boyfriend. Like that for me fits Tiffany more than, or even like if Tiffany and Jaylene had swapped roles and Jaylene had been the one to kind of. My point is, I love Tiffany dearly. I think she should have been in any other role other than the narrator.
Right.
I think she would have been more successful in a smaller part.
Right. Then we had group 3, who we talked about already, but David, what's your thing?
Yeah, so I love this group. I feel like the 3 biggest standouts were 3 people in this group. And I did question, like, was an advantage having a smaller group so you could have more time to shine? And I think that might have been an aspect for it, but I think it really was just the concept that won out here and the characters that they built. They had fully realized characters that were similar enough but distinct enough that it felt really cohesive. I was obsessed with the character Perla created. I love that woman. I know exactly who that woman is. I've seen that woman in movies before. It felt like somebody pulled straight out of Fargo, which is one of my favorite movies. So I was just really into everything she was doing. The narration was brilliant, how they did that for this group. They had so many funny moments, like Minnie trying to reach out and shake an appendage, and Perla, wrong appendage.
Wrong appendage.
Wrong appendage.
Yeah.
And I really respected how Helena went for it with the physical comedy. Like she just dug her face in there. And it was so funny. Even how they ended it, like if somebody sneezes, don't say
Run
bless
for your
you,
life.
run, which for a second I was like, wait, because the alien would die from the disease. So yeah, they killed it on every level. So good.
It was just good. There's nothing else we could say besides it was just good. Perla was I've seen that person too, David. I know that person. She is very QVC, trying to sell me some shoes and some jewelry, and I love that character for her. It was just good all the way around. No need to keep tooting their horn. They know they were good. They were fabulous.
Yeah. There's not much else I can add to that other than who I think should have maybe won the challenge, so I'll save it for when we talk about the results. But yeah, this group was the most cohesive, the most together on what they were doing. They knew what they were there to do. They accomplished what they set out to do, and they had fun while doing it. And I think this is one of the best acting challenge performances maybe we've ever seen by a group, at least on Canada for sure, if not overall. Like it was just it was a stellar performance.
Masterclass
in improv and scripted comedy.
Better than
and
some SNL
comedy.
skits. For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all three of these girls could step onto SNL right now and devour. And I love it. I love it so much. So, as always, we will be talking about the looks over on Look Over Here, so make sure to tune in for that. We get our critiques and we get our Untucked, and it's a lot of, unfortunately for the bottom girls, the same kind of sentiments as what we had last week.
Before we get into Untucked, though, when Xana was talking on the stage, so we saw that she was in the bottom, and they just montaged her talking.
And talking. And
I
talking.
was like, no, not Xana getting the crossfade. No.
I was just like,
not the only person we've seen get a crossfade for talking a lot this week on Drag Race.
We saw that. We saw that a lot. I feel like Xana is just that like we said, she's type A, very much in charge. And when she loses that control, she don't know how to deal with it or process it. So she was literally trying to talk her way out of the bottom. And she was talking and talking and talking and talking. And I was just like, it's okay, girl. Just stop talking and go back to the back and do what you got to do. Like, save your talking points for the person who wins so they can give you that beaver. Like,
but she sure did.
She sure did. Like, she went in hard. But that was so funny on that stage, seeing Xana just go and go and go and go. I think there's a lot of nervous energy and a lot of, how do I get out of this?
I'm in the bottom.
Right. How do I get out of this? And I was just like, okay, all right. I see how you are, but go off, sis. But then we went back and Untucked, and she kept going.
Should we announce the tops wins? Because that's relevant before we get into Untucked.
I guess.
Since
I forget
they're pleading to a specific person.
We got to do things a little bit differently because we got the beaver. But yes.
Miss Girl is back. Miss Girl
is back. Mm-hmm. So no surprise, the top three is our Manners group as a whole. I'm so happy that all three of them got these top placements. Minnie, Perla, and Helena. And the win does end up going to Perla.
Very deserved.
I would have gave it to Perla.
I don't think I would have.
Really?
Who would you give it to, Helena?
Are you just trying to be different for the sake of being different?
No, no. No. Because I think for the storyline that is happening, Perla needed to win this challenge.
I don't think so.
Okay, I just think from having her in the bottom last week and her being unsure of herself, I think like having that narrative arc, I really like it for Perla. So I think Perla getting the win is great. I think for me, the person that I laughed the most at in the challenge was Helena. So I think I would have given the win to Helena.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I do think that she had one of the funnier, like, specific moments, but I felt like the group was so tied together by everything that Perla was doing and Perla was coming up with, and it was her leadership. And I really like that this challenge, they really focus, you sink or swim based on whether or not you're the leader. So that made sense to me. Plus, runway.
Oh yeah, no, like. It easily could have gone to any of the three of them, and I would have been happy because Minnie could have easily snatched that win, and I would have been also with the runway. We'll talk about it, but
it's a shame that this season, there can't be any like double wins with the Golden Beaver because that's just not a dynamic that's going to work.
But here's why I think Perla actually deserved, because I thought Helena was funny. But if Helena didn't do that part, it still would have been funny. If she didn't do that part, it still would have been funny. If Perla didn't do her character how she did, it would have not been as funny. Like, I feel like Perla set the scene and set the tone for the group. And even if everybody was still did what they did and Helena didn't do the whole pie in the face thing, it would have been, she would still be like, okay, don't put it, and did something else. It would have been funny. Take it out, funny. Leave it in, funny. Perla set the dynamic and the tone, and it just made it funny. So,
I do agree with that for sure. But, and we end up with our bottom three announced as Xana, Tara, and Tiffany.
I wouldn't have Xana. I think I agree with you. I hate to say it, but I'm trying to think right now. What did Sanjina do in the challenge? I can't remember.
Yeah, it probably would have been Sanjina for me too, and not Xana.
And given her runway, and there is context for her runway that we'll talk about and look over here because I found out context for it.
Good.
It probably for me still would unfortunately would have been Sanjina. It would have been Sanjina or Xana for sure. One of those two for me, I think would have been in the bottom. It would have been in the bottom three with, unfortunately, Tara and Tiffany, who I think were the two that did perform the worst in this challenge, unfortunately. But they come back into Untucked to do this Beaver conversation, and Xana, almost right out the gate, is listing out every reason why she should be saved.
And good reasons.
Good reasons, solid reasons, correct reasons. I loved everything Xana did in this. Like, Xana is playing the Canada's social strategy race of it all. And as a fan of social strategic gameplay, I love what Xana did here.
Ooh, put her on the Traders Canada season 3.
Please. Oh, because Melinda did so well. Please, for the love of God, CTV, please pick up Xana for Traders. Please, for the love of everything in the universe, pick up Xana for Traders. Thank you.
Yeah. I think Xana will be great on Traders. But yeah, Xana went through that whole thing and was like, this is what it is. This is why I shouldn't do it. This is what you need to think about. She laid out her point. She played the game. And I was like, play the game. This is what you came here to do. And this is, in this episode, this is where I was like, okay, Xana, I see what you're doing. I like it. Do I think, am I fully turned on Xana? And
Are you acquiring that taste?
No. But I am appreciating the taste. I'm appreciating the smell. I'm like, okay. It don't smell bad. It smells good. I'll taste it again like one day. Right. The aroma of it all is okay. All right. And maybe I'll like the smell enough one day to taste it and the choir.
Her.
But as of right
Her.
now, I'm just appreciating the smell of it because she's doing what
I'll take that.
I would want to do in this situation. She's doing what I would want to see anybody do in this situation. Fight for your life. Make sure you are not that
Fight
one.
for your life.
Make sure you're the one to get that beaver. You do what you got to do to get it, and she did what she needed to do. And guess what? She got the beaver.
Well, I do want to. Can we talk about the
Yes,
pleads from the other girls too?
Yeah,
because I
which
do
are
think
good.
right. I think Xana had the most compelling argument, but I really connected with what Tara had to say too. Like a lot of what she was saying is there's a lot of weight on my shoulders as the representation for the East Coast. And I was thinking about it. And so we do have 6 Toronto girls, 3 Vancouver girls, and then we have just Uma and Tara representing Quebec, Montreal, and St. John's. And that's wild. Like I really do like Canada does such a good job of having such diverse representation, but not when it comes to cities all the time.
Diverse representation when it comes to representation within Toronto Queens.
And Vancouver.
Because even well, yes, but look at season 3, where you had 5 Toronto girls and all 5 of them represented Toronto, but also represented 5 completely different countries and like more than 5 countries and like cultures and things like that.
Right.
And while I do appreciate that, they've also been good on other seasons of casting, queens from Saskatchewan, queens from Calgary, and Perla, you could kind of say represents Calgary and Toronto. But I do hope that we get to see a wider breadth of representation from. I don't want it to be Toronto versus the world. Toronto has great queens, and all 6 of these queens are phenomenal from Toronto. But I would like a little bit more diversity in what they were doing. But I agree with that. I loved Tara's. I also loved Tiffany's plea as well.
Yeah, I mean, she made a very compelling argument too. The Pork Chop Lounge doesn't have VIP. I get it, girl. I get it.
She doesn't want to be sitting alone in the VIP. I get it.
Absolutely. She
wouldn't even have a VIP.
They wouldn't have one. You just sitting amongst the general public.
Sitting alone. Just sitting
you
alone.
don't deserve that.
You don't deserve that.
None of these girls do, but
she also talked about how she finds herself putting people before her, like just naturally in life. And I could see that. I could see that in the challenge too. Just the way that she was kind of letting others take command and do the directing. And so I do want to see her like step up and be like, yeah, this is about me right now. And even with this, like I wanted to see more fight from her. And I'm hoping that if she does find herself in this situation again, she'll be like, screw them. This is about me and why I need to stay, because you do deserve to stay.
Yeah, definitely. But we go back to the main stage, and kind of to no surprise, I really was not surprised by the Golden Beaver decision by Perla. Perla does decide to save Xana. Deserved. And my worst fears became reality. No. 2 of my absolute favorites from this season, Tiffany and Tara, are in the bottom. I'm pissed that I called it last week. No, I didn't know. But I was frustrated and upset. And then they gave us a great lip sync, and I was thrilled about it. To Fuck the Pain Away by Peaches, taking 2 very different approaches. And I loved both of their approaches to this lip sync.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really liked how Tara like had this costuming that kind of worked for a character in a lip sync, and she really leaned into that, and I was really into what she was doing. It was a lot of like jumping up and down and like spinning in circles, so it did get a little repetitive at points, but I thought she did very solid. But I do think Tiffany was the one that really embodied what the lyrics are about in the song. She just gave us, this was her lesson on sexuality.
Huh? This was the lesson on sexuality, Tiffany. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, I would have given it to Tiffany, which hurts me to say because I do love Tara as well, but it was a good lip sync.
Like I said in the exit interview with Tara, I said both of y'all ate this lip sync. It was really good. But as I was watching it, I was literally screaming like, Tiffany is eating this up. Tiffany is eating this up right now. Tiffany is eating this up, but she was eating. She was eating. She ate that up, and I was like, "You, ooh." If it would have went the other way, I wouldn't have been mad, but I would have been like, "How? How do you give that to Tara when Tiffany just ate that
I
up?"
wanted it to be a double save.
It was. I mean, we knew it wasn't happening, but but it was just really, 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 really good. A really good and really good lip sync. And Tiffany just ate it down. She just ate one down on that one. And you gotta let that sink in, baby. It was good. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
And I do agree. There was a delightful frenetic energy about Tara in this lip sync that I did love. Like, she really leaned into the character, and I think the character is the way that she should have gone for this, and I really appreciated it. But I do think Tiffany ate one down, and Tara goes home first, and my heart broke. I really her impact will be felt for years to come. And I really think, and I said this while I was watching, I really think everything Tara did on this season and everything Tara is continuing to do for her drag scene and for drag in Newfoundland on a whole, I think if she wants an all-star spot sometime in the future, I think she's gonna get one. I think we're gonna see her. I hope that we will see her return, because there is so much raw talent and there is so much grace and beauty and just beautiful energy about Tara that needs to be shown more on this platform.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sad we didn't get as much of it on this season as I would have liked.
Yeah, she talked about it in her Meet the Queens and in episode 1. She's got Newfie charm, and it absolutely worked on me. There was something so endearing about her. Like, I could hang out with her, I could be friends with her. She just, and even
I
doing
want to be friends with her.
doing the exit interview with her, it just felt like we just clicked naturally. She was great in that.
Yeah.
So please check that out if you haven't. And
Yes.
I cannot wait to get my Terra Nova shirt.
Yay!
It's been ordered, but there is this post office strike going on. So eventually I will get it and I'll wear it on the podcast.
Purr. We love you, Tara. And we told you that in our exit interview, and Tara has been so good to us here at the Cup. So it hurt. It hurt to see her go first, but as she said, she's ready to shine, and we're ready to see it. And if you have not watched our exit interview, she did request that we continue to cover her looks on Look Over Here. And we told you we're going to do it, Tara, and we are going to do it. So in some capacity, we're still trying to figure out what that means, but we are going to cover as many of the looks from the eliminated queens throughout the season as we can, because they deserve it, and we're loving this cast. So love you, Tara. Come back on the pod. That might be happening. Let's have a draft update.
Okay, yeah. There is a bit of a shakeup in the draft this week, so that's interesting. We now have a tie for 5th place, and it is between Lana and River with 16.5 points each. Then in 3rd place, we have Eduardo and Logan with 18 points each. That means David has jumped from 6th place now to 2nd place. Ooh, because I have Perla and Helena, who did very well. And I have 19 points. And in 1st place, we have Brandon with 21 points. So still anyone's game.
Lovely gal. Lovely gal.
And Lana is the first to lose a member from their draft team, sadly.
Tara, why? Tara. Newfoundland mug. Oh. I'm sad. I tried to do the Pharaoh. Anyway, can we talk about how we're literally getting a lip sync slay off next week, and Shea Coulee is the guest judge?
That's the part. Shay.
Like, A, lip sync slay off. B, lip sync slay off in teams. I'm so excited to see how this is going to turn out.
Right.
And C, Shea Coulee.
My fave. Okay, Jimbo
Love-
is my favorite Canadian queen. Shay's my favorite queen. Shay is my favorite queen, period.
I love
Lana,
Shea.
do you know Shea Coulee? Have you seen her on anything? Okay, good. Because Shay is the moment, for sure.
Shea
The
is
never-ending
always the
moment.
The eternal moment is Shea Coulee. I'm so excited to this little charisma, uniqueness, nerve, talent, and Yaz little bang she's got going. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm really intrigued to see how they're going to do this lip sync slay off in teams. I think it's a really fun and interesting way to do this. This kind of challenge. I'm excited that it's so early in the season and we're going to get to see everyone lip sync. And I'm excited to see how like the Beaver is going to work with this, because we got a little bit of it in the slay off last year, but the slay off last year was 8 queens and not 10.
I almost wonder if it's going to be similar to how it was in season 3, where they had like the teams for like lip syncs then, and like the point was for them both to do well together. And that's what I like to see in lip syncs, is when it feels cohesive, it feels planned out, it feels like they both are trying to help each other succeed. So I'm totally for that. If that's what it is, if like this team is trying to knock off this team or whatever, I don't know.
Or you're drafting based on, like, my concept that I thought would be really cool, I don't know if they're doing it, is if you draft based on like genre of song. So like you have like pop song, rock song, ballad, mid-tempo, and something else, or something along those lines. And each team is like, okay, we're going to draft, not necessarily knowing exactly what the song is before you draft it. And then you draft the girls for these songs. You don't know what the other team is doing either. And then you learn what the song is, you learn the song, and then you compete. And I think that would be an interesting way to do it too. But
all I know is heads will roll next week.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited for next week. We're going to be here talking all about it. So thank you for joining us for this recap on episode 2 of Canada's Drag Race Season 5. Make sure, if you have not already, go check out our exit interview with Terra Nova, because she is a literal angel of my life and our podcast. I absolutely love her. Make sure to check out our look over here, where we're talking about a phenomenal runway. And subscribe, like, and share on the way out. Check out the description below, where you can find all of our audio podcast links, our other YouTube channels, our Patreon, our social media, and where you can get your merch, including but not limited to cup, mug. And with all that being said, we are going to go ahead and get out of here. So cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Many